song that the choir is about to sing, called Meet Me Here, is taken from a larger work called Considering Matthew Shepard. Some of you may remember in 1989, Matthew Shepard, a young man, was lynched in Wyoming for being gay. He was left hanging on a fence. In response to this event, the composer Craig Hella Johnson wrote a full-length musical work, Considering Matthew Shepard, of which this movement, Meet Me Here, takes the audience. It is a pivotal moment which takes a first step from a very difficult story and asks the question, where do I go from here? At its core, Meet Me Here is a folk-style hymn which invites participants to be open to meeting at a place which may seem difficult or painful, but be open to discovering the healing and joy which can be experienced when we lay down our ancestral sorrows that we may have been carrying for generations and open ourselves to finding the healing together, excluding no one. And I'm going to read you the text. Meet me here. Won't you meet me here? Where the old fence ends and the horizon begins. There's a balm in the silence, like an understanding air, where the old fence ends and the horizon begins. We've been walking through the darkness on this long, hard climb, carried ancestral sorrow for too long a time. Will you lay down your burdens? Lay it down, come with me. It will never be forgotten, held in love so tenderly. Meet me here. Won't you meet me here, where the old fence ends and the horizon begins? There's a joy in the singing like an understanding air, where the old fence ends and the horizon begins. Then we'll come to the mountain, we'll go bounding to see that great circle of dancing, and we'll dance endlessly. And we'll dance with all the children who've been lost along the way. We will welcome each other coming home this glorious day. We are home in the mountain, and we'll gently understand that we've been friends forever, that we've never been alone. We'll sing on through any darkness, and our song will be our sight. We can learn to offer praise again, coming home to the light. Meet me here, Craig Hella Johnson.
There's a balm in the silence, like an understanding air, where the old fence ends and the horizon begins.
Well, after that opening number, I feel like I'm going to have to introduce the mirth very gingerly. Ahoy! Now, that worked better when I had the Captain Highliner beard last year, but I'm going to stick with it. It's wonderful to see you all here. I'm thrilled to be back. And before I forget, I just want to say big props to Rebecca for giving us such a sound footing to start the year with the water communion. I really like that we leaned into the earth-based dimension of this faith right off the bat, because I feel like we're going to have to do more of that as AI continues to steam increase its march into our psyche. I think we're going to have to stay grounded in the physical world, and there's a lot of ways I think we can help ourselves do that. As I look out at all your fresh faces, I keep thinking that no matter how far our childhood has sort of receded in the rearview mirror, this time of year always feels like back to school. And do you remember how that first couple of weeks, you looked around to see which kids had changed the most? And some kids, hadn't changed that much. You could recognize that was the essential kid you knew. And then there were some kids that had just popped over the summer. There was always that one kid who went abroad and now speaks with an accent. And I was always of two minds about that. On one hand, I was always kind of intimidatingly impressed. And on the other hand, it was like, really? Come on. That doesn't seem right. I know that that's a long time ago for a lot of us, but it's true that when we come back in September, we've changed as well. It's just that the changes aren't as obvious. I know some of the things that some of you were up to over the summer, and they were quite amazing, from doing the Camino to Santiago, to attending music camps, to organizing music camps, to marking milestones. Some people welcomed grandchildren. Some people became empty nesters for the first time. And these kind of things, they're like miracle grow for the soul. It's not the kind of growth that you can measure on the door frame, but it's the kind of thing that will reveal itself as we come back into community with each other. I'm sure of it. I really can't wait for this to happen. It's so lovely to see you. Let's get things going with this little light of mine.
Please rise for this little light of mine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Fire, underlies, I'm building up the world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world. I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
Lovely. Welcome to North Shore Unitarian Fellowship, where we take it as our mission to help each other live lives of depth, meaning, and purpose. My name's Bruce Grierson, and I'm thrilled and honored to be the lead goose in the V this morning, in the formation, the front face of our ongoing experiment in distributed ministry. I'm thrilled that all 5 members of our service team are back this year. Rebecca, Leslie, Sue, Allison, and me. And I can't wait to see what everybody has cooked up for you. Judging from what we talked about at the retreat, I think it's going to be great. I think you're going to like it. If you're joining us for the first time this morning, thank you for being brave and giving us a try. We hope you already feel welcome. That is the UU Jam, really. We strive for radical inclusivity. What Unitarian Universalism is, above all, is a big container. Whatever brought you through the door today, whatever your religious story or background, if you even have one, whatever you do for your beans and bread, or you did, whoever you love, however you fill the silence when no one's around, we hope you feel safe and elevated for this next hour. We meet here each Sunday on the traditional ancestral land of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First People, to whom we honor a pledge to continue the work of reconciliation. Now, a housekeeping note. Sometime soon, very soon, we're going to have a mock fire drill here. And when this happens, you'll be directed to leave the building as calmly and safely and quickly as possible. To be clear, it's just a practice. No alarms will sound. The fire department is not being called. We'll just have somebody out with a cowbell or something to simulate the drill, and you'll know that this is happening, and we'll open up the doors. And we haven't done one of these for a while. We need to kind of keep sharp about this. It's funny, speaking of fire, last weekend I was at a celebration of life for an old friend, and a story was told of this gentleman named David. So one of his early jobs was he was a city bus driver in Glasgow. He drove a double-decker bus, and one day, bad things can happen on the job. This was a really bad day. The bus caught fire, and David was hustling everyone out, and he went up onto the top deck, and there was a gentleman sitting in the back, and David's going, "Come on, man, the bus is on fire, let's go." And the man says, "I'm not getting off, I paid my fare." And I think there's a metaphor there for global warming and our inaction in the face of it. I'm not getting off, I paid my fare. Now, still on the subject of fire, in very small measure, it's a Unitarian tradition to light a chalice each service. And as Rebecca mentioned last week, this is a ritual that traces back to 1941 Europe, when Jews fleeing persecution from the Nazis could know by the candle in the window that there was a sanctuary for them inside that house. And it's still a symbol that you're in a place where you can be safe and you can be you. And this morning, I have Stuart Browning, who many of you know is a very fine stained glass artist, and I think dazzling light shines right through you too, Stuart.
You're too kind.
So Stuart and Jean have been with us we were trying to figure this out, 7 years, maybe 8 years, somewhere in the ballpark. I asked Stuart what brought him here, and he said, well, Jean had been going to Van U, and she thought she'd check this congregation out, which was closer to where they now lived. And you said, I had no real idea what UU was about, but I'd follow my wife everywhere. Anywhere. Okay, good answer. And then you came here, and the choir was awesome, and the new incoming minister tandem would turn out to be awesome. That was Marcus and Emily. And then something happened downstairs that kind of cemented it for you. You had a conversation with a stranger.
You want the backstory?
Well, just,
All right.
What happened there? You can tuck right in here.
The first time I came here, it's true. I thought my wife wants to come here. Well, like I say, I follow her anywhere.
Can we do this mic, podium mic? Yeah, go right in there.
Oh.
Eat the mic, as they say.
I'll eat the mic. So I could follow her anywhere. So when I got here, of course, it was different because the music really got me, because the choir, Allison, and and Kerry was here with his guitar. So this is a great place, and the people are really nice. So downstairs, having coffee, Jean's off talking to all of these people, and I'm sitting by myself at a table, just sort of wandering around, thinking about things and checking everything out. And this man comes and sits down across from me, starts a conversation. Says, so what do you do? I said, well, I'm an artist. He said, I am too. I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a sculptor. I work in wood. I I said, well, I'm a glazier, and I work in glass, stained glass, sandblasting, any type of glass. So that started off a really nice conversation with this man. Then out of the blue, I don't know, whatever possessed me, and maybe I was trying to keep the conversation going, I don't know, but I just said, you know, have you ever thought about all the years you had to go to school, you know, and all this education, and then you went to university? Was there anybody there, all those years, any teacher that really affected you, one that you just never forgot about? And he was looking at me and, you know, well, yeah, maybe. I said, well, I thought, I got to keep this going. So I said, well, you know, for me, it was my last year, grade 12, West Van Senior High. I couldn't wait to get out of school. I wanted to go to art school where I could lie on the grass, smell the flowers, and paint and draw as long as my heart could take it. So, you know, I said, I had to take English literature. It was the 5 courses I needed. I had used up all the courses that I wanted, and I had to do this, and it was a compulsory course. And I thought, oh, this is going to be so boring. You know, I'd be an old teacher probably, like all of my other teachers. Like when you're 16, anybody with a tinge of gray hair or anybody that's over 30, you think they're old if you're 16, right? So anyway, I went in, and I was greeted by this young, tall man who was absolutely full of energy, and waving the book around, telling us what a great time we're going to have with English literature, and that you're going to love Shakespeare. And I thought, I've never had a teacher like this before. So I thought, it's probably just the first time. So second time I went, same thing. This guy's all over the place. He's just waving his hands and getting everybody energized. And the third time, same thing. I thought, this is a pattern. This is going to be like this all year. I'm starting to look forward to this class. This is English literature. I never thought me wanting to do that because I'm an art, you know, I draw, I paint. And so, and this gentleman is sitting there, and he's just being very patient. He's, oh yeah, naughty, oh yeah. And I said, and the teacher's name was Mr. Gibbons. And he looked at me, and his jaw dropped, and he said, that's me. I'm Mr. Gibbons. And I thought, is this old brain playing a trick on me? Did I really hear that? And so I started sizing him up for a split second. Okay, yeah, he's about the same height, about six feet, yeah. And then I thought, of course, I'm thinking of this young guy, you know. I mean, I was young, but anyway, so I looked in his eyes and thought, yep, this is Mr. Gibbons. And that started a really great friendship where we visited each other's studios, and I just loved the guy. And so when he left, and Jean came over, I told her what had happened. And I said, you know, if this place is good enough for Mr. Gibbons, it's certainly good enough for me. So that's why I'm staying here, because the fantastic music, just unbelievable, and of course, all these great, fine people. So you're stuck with me. Sorry about that.
If it's good enough for Stuart, it's good enough for me. We kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering. Now, we do a candle of joys and sorrows. You can light it at any point, Stuart, if you want, and we'll just say a few of them here. First of all, off the hop, a nice positive one. Eileen's birthday is on Thursday. Yay! How old? That's a lot of fingers, but you're flashing. And are you 19? 18. It was okay. Well, this one I'm having trouble actually putting in a category of a sorrow or a joy. It's a sorrow. A lot of you were at the memorial for Lynn Saverin yesterday. A lot of tears spilled there. I have a personal note to say about that in a moment. But in some ways, as Leslie reminded me, it was also a marvelous event of connection and reconnection. As I'm thinking close to 400 people came together from every vector of her life, and there was singing, and she always said she wanted a party, and she got one. And it was very moving and wonderful. Okay, coming back to this sorrow part of that in 1 second, Deanna also mentioned that when we're talking about global events, it was a week of global sorrows. Same day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, down in Mexico, a giant tanker truck overturned with 50,000 liters of fuel in it, and it was a horrendous disaster. 10 people died, 70 people are in critical condition. And it just felt like things were happening all over the place. Great souls were leaving the world, and events were happening all over the place. Just a little note about Lynn. There's a lot I could say, but I'm going to just tell you one little moment where about a month ago, Lila and I were riding our bikes home from Lonsdale, and we passed that sign that says, "Welcome to Lynn Valley." And I went, that about says it. We are in Lynn Valley now, in the shadow of this thing. And Lila said, "I'm not in Lynn Valley." And I said, "You're not?" And she said, "No, I'm in Lynn Canyon." Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're in Lynn Canyon, and we will be for some time. That's just the way it is. The day after Lynn died, what lands in my inbox but a poem by a gentleman called Michael Lavers, and it's called "The Happiest Day of Your Life." And I'm going to read it to you here. You won't see the words, you just have to hear the words. The happiest day of your life. You wake up and hear rain. You wake up and think there's not enough rain, not enough songs about rain or memories of rain, of being numbed or warmed by rain. You wake up, your eyes are open, lilies in a moss green bowl, elms through the window moving their hands like cellists. Books exist, and paintings and pillows. Blue Mountain and Saddle Mountain, Abundance Creek, Alpha Centauri, Delft. The woman in your dreams was putting down a crate of oranges, but then you woke up remembering that there is custard, there is Verdi, there is smoke-filled late fall air, and even joy in what it feels like to grieve, wanting to sleep instead of bear what you must. Like finishing the best book in the world, you wake up wanting to try. You try. Here in the swirling eddies, in the dark river of time and decay, there is rain. There is this day. There is this day and no other. Praise it with trumpets and zithers. Praise it however you can. I love the dagger line in there, the joy in what it feels like to grieve. And that is a big ask, to find a crumb of joy in grief. But that is the work, to square those two feelings. You know, you're so sad that you just want to go back to bed and pull the covers over your head, and you know you've got to find a way to not do that, to look at the day and somehow praise it. Praise it with zithers. Lynn would like that. It was a really crappy year for Lynn, one of the worst years of her life, I'd say, but there was still a light on in there right to the end. Thanks for your patience, Stuart. I'm going to recommend that we take 2 minutes of silence now, and we let this silence contain your feelings about those you've lost and those you're still hanging on to, still cherishing, and more globally, the state of the world our children and grandchildren are taking their place in and stepping up to try to shape. At the end of it, Catherine will bring us out of it with some piano. All right, and now for something a little bit different. How many of you are golfers or have ever golfed even a couple of times? Okay. It's amazing how something that looks so simple can be so hard. The ball doesn't go where you want it to go because there are so many components to a golf swing. If anything's out, even a smidgen, the whole thing comes a cropper. What's frustrating is even if you do know what every part of you should be doing, it's hard to do it because you can't keep all those instructions in your head at the same time. If you try to, it's disaster. There's only one way to successfully hit a golf ball, and that is to think about just one thing, one very important thing of your choosing. Golfers call this a swing thought. Swing thought. So for me, the swing thought that worked best, and I should say I was never much of a golfer, but this proved a pretty reliable way to not absolutely duff it every single time. The swing thought that worked was, keep your eye on the ball, you dummy. Your eye on the ball. So swing thoughts. The notion that we can really only hold one big idea in our head, of course, applies not just to golf, but to life. How should a person be? What is our assignment here on planet Earth? If there were just one thing to keep in mind, not for hitting a golf ball, but for living a good and worthy life, given the complexity of the world and our short time here, what would that one thing be? Now, you could go on the internet, where you'll find no shortage of armchair philosophers peddling their prescriptions, clickbaited as something like the only life hack you'll ever need. Life hacks are the scripture of a secular age. Fortunately, we can do better than pop psych wisdom. Long, long before life hacks were even a gleam in the eye of some TikTok influencer, the world's major faith traditions all tackled the question, how should a person be? And kind of miraculously, they converged on an answer that has stood the test of time. It's pretty wild. All these different civilizations, in Greece, in China, in India, in Israel, they all raised one idea up above all the others. And by the way, this happened in a pretty brief window in history between 900 and 200 BC. They called it the Axial Age. But anyway, all these cultures zeroed in on one idea, and they put it in the mouth of their god, or their CEO, if you like. Buddha, Confucius, Lao Tzu, Socrates. It was as if these cultures were all working off the same script. They all realized independently that if they were to survive as a culture, they were going to have to think about the good of the group and not just let certain individuals hog the power. They were going to have to build a community of character, as the religious scholar Karen Armstrong puts it. So selfless and compassion were heavily promoted. And then along comes Rabbi Jesus and the Christians, who framed the same idea, the very same swing thought, in the words that we're all familiar with now. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or if you prefer it as an image, so cute. So Jesus' thing was, he said to his disciples, you know, guys, it's not a great look what you're doing here, jockeying for a privileged spot in heaven. You need to show compassion in this world. The kingdom of God, you're looking at it. It's right here, right now. Go make yourself useful. Welcome a stranger into your home. Feed the hungry. Visit the sick. More doing, less pontificating. So it goes without saying that we Unitarian Universalists are all over this idea as dedicated connoisseurs of the best of what other people have already figured out. Not to be too glib about this, but isn't this the reason a lot of us are here in this place, in this faith tradition? Certainly it's a draw for me. When you have no dogma of your own, that leaves the banquet of human wisdom, the hive mind. It's like amazing things are being shared at the other end of the table, out of earshot, and you trust that the highest quality chicken will make its way around to you eventually. What's so appealing about the Golden Rule is that it's not really about any specific religious belief or cosmology. It's about behavior and belonging. Yes, it's compatible with deep faith, but it also works just fine if you don't plug it in to any god. That's how it's endured for thousands of years. Even the atheists are on board, because this is virtue ethics, right? The ethics of reciprocity. What we have on our hands here is the proven algorithm for sustainable human flourishing. Now, to be clear, there is a leap of faith to it in the sense that when you give, you don't know for sure that your generosity is going to be repaid. When I was a kid growing up in Edmonton, there was a restaurant that opened downtown, and it tried a radical experiment. There were no prices on the menu. You paid what you thought your meal was worth. Yeah, man, reciprocity ethics. Yeah. It went bankrupt. The problem wasn't the concept, I don't think. The problem was that the food wasn't very good. So the golden rule actually worked. People paid what they thought it was worth, and it wasn't worth all that much. But anyway, good on those guys for trying. And it was a sound model. They just needed a chef who didn't burn the meatloaf, you know. Reciprocity, though, right? Good idea. Great idea. In fact, it's the closest thing we have to an overarching law of the universe. Think about it. Physics. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Biology. Reciprocal altruism. All those interspecies handshakes found throughout nature. The golden rule seems to be woven right into the fabric of things. One ring to rule them all. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. So are we done? Is this the final answer of how to be? Is this, if it's the consensus opinion? Okay, begging your indulgence, I'm going to suggest the golden rule is not the last word on wise and generous human behavior, because there's a flaw in it. Okay. Anyone recognize this gentleman? George Bernard Shaw, I think I heard someone say. Playwright George Bernard Shaw. Not a Unitarian, but Unitarian adjacent, I would say. He was an atheist for much of his life, and then he became a Quaker near the end, actually. Someone asked him about the almighty golden rule. And what do you think he said? He said, under no circumstances should you treat others the way you want to be treated. What? Why on earth not? Well, because, he said, because they may not like it. Aha, good point. If I'm meeting you for the first time, it's pretty arrogant of me to assume that I know what you want. This is how we get imperialism and the imposition of our values onto other cultures and so on. You'll speak our language and you'll like it. You'll adopt our economic system and it'll be great. Trust us. Do you like Celine Dion? I've loaded her whole backlist onto your Spotify feed. No need to thank me. And so from this discovery, the flaw in the golden rule, comes our next level swing thought called the platinum rule. Now, sometimes it's called the diamond rule, but let's call it the platinum rule because that sounds fancier. The platinum rule says, treat others the way they would like to be treated. Aha, right? Hold on, though, how do we know? How do you know how they would like to be treated? Well, ask them. Learn about them. See, the problem with the golden rule is it takes no effort on your part. You just assume that people are kind of all alike. The platinum rule requires you to try to whip up some empathy, to make a real connection, to imagine yourself into this stranger's skin. That's the difference. The golden rule puts you at the center of the story. The platinum rule puts them at the center of the story. What do they want that you can give them? The platinum rule feels like the golden rule plus interest. The golden rule plus a healthy tip for the kitchen staff. The platinum rule feels like the end, doesn't it? So have we arrived? Is this the final bus stop, the ultimate swing thought, the true secret of life? Well, not quite. Because the platinum rule, great as it is, has a blind spot too. It's static in time. It's stuck in the here and now. Oh no, who are you going to call? This guy. Well, this is going to be harder to identify. Wendell Berry, he is. Beloved of many Unitarians for his earthy poetry. I checked actually to see if he's still alive. I wasn't sure. He is. He's 91 and living on a farm in Kentucky. Wendell Berry, whose mind roams forward and back at will, he hatched something I'm going to call the titanium rule. The titanium rule says, treat your descendants the way you'd have wanted your ancestors to have treated you. Or in his words, do unto those downstream, of course he'd use a river metaphor, do unto those downstream as you would have those upstream do unto you. This is living a life that Barry calls long-termism, a life beyond your life. And let's upgrade that with the dash of the platinum rule and say, show your descendants the same consideration that you'd have wanted your ancestors to have shown you. That's better. That's a mouthful, but it's better. So surely now we're done. The titanium rule, that certainly sounds like the last word in faith and propriety, right? Well, no, actually, because we're still missing something. We're missing all of the non-human world. It's not in there. So we need more. We need another rule. What's more, what to call it? What's more precious than titanium? How about Gaia herself? But instead of the Gaia rule, I want to call it, this word's pronounced guilas, the guilas rule. So guilas is a Celtic word coined by the people of the central east coast of Vancouver Island. It translates roughly as traditional laws. It's a set of values that braid together to form a complete ethical framework. It's a combination of three principles: respect, responsibility, and reciprocity. And these three principles guide the Heldsuks' every action on the land, from harvesting herring eggs to protecting grizzly bear habitat. Respect, responsibility, reciprocity. And by the way, a hat tip to my friend Jane Palmer for this one. She's a science writer and a human rights journalist who I met in Berkeley on that intellectual humility project that I've talked to you about. Jane works almost exclusively with indigenous peoples now, the Helduk, the Maori, many, many others. So let's look at these, going tighter on each of these real quick. Respect. In this case, we're talking a level of respect that's supercharged, a level of respect that you can only give another sentient being when you believe that being is literally part of yourself and you of it, because everything is connected in a seventh principle kind of way. That is respect. That's not just lip service respect, that's I feel you respect. Okay, number two, responsibility. If you take something, well, now you own the consequences of that action. It's on you what happens now, no one else. It's on you to make things right. That's responsibility. And number three, reciprocity. When you take, you give. You restore the balance. You restore the balance so that this story can continue on and on and on. That's how the Helduk thought about things for 12,000 years. It's an ethic. It's not just bookkeeping. Nobody's bringing out pen and paper and making sure that the gives and the takes exactly cancel each other out. And this, again, is so different from the Western bean counter way. When I planted trees one summer in northern Alberta, we made sure that we put a tree in the ground for every one that the lumber company cut down. Net zero, baby. The problem is you're not measuring everything there is to measure there. Like, a forest may be made of 10,000 trees, but 10,000 trees isn't necessarily a forest. Cut one, plant one. Western science calls that sustainable resource management, and it takes a bow. But that doesn't nearly capture the complexity of an ecosystem. There's an ethical and a moral dimension, I would even say a spiritual dimension, that's missing from this kind of thinking. So, the three R's, respect, responsibility, and reciprocity, that is a values-driven worldview. You're expanding the circle of moral consideration beyond your own family, beyond your own tribe, beyond your own species, out into the realm of every creeping thing and the land itself, the rivers and mountains and seas. And surely this one is truly a universal rule. Jane tells me that some version of it she has seen in every indigenous group she's ever worked with. Respect, responsibility, and reciprocity. And at the center of it all is generosity. And here's the weird thing. The giver and the receiver both end up on the positive side of the ledger. It's voodoo math. No one can explain it, but it works. The more you give, the more you get. And now you're in harmony, as the Buddhists would say. You're in harmony at all three levels, with yourself, with your community, with the systems that guide you, your faith, your politics, your aesthetics. Wow! Look where we've ended up. A truly lofty place. The circle is as wide as it can go. The string of ancestors and descendants stretches to the horizon in both directions, a story of radical empathy and respect for all of creation. Awesome. But it's not a very easy swing thought. Imagine trying to keep all that in your mind as you go into the tee box. And you're going, left arm straight, a little give in the knees, going to get good hip rotation here. Geez, I hope I don't lose this ball. It's the one my grandfather gave me. Did I remember to pay for parking? I really shouldn't drive so much, at least not a gas-powered car. And where am I on the Malcolm Gladwell thing that golf is elitist and all private golf courses should be returned to the wild, or at least turned into public parks? Swing and a miss. Because it was all too much to keep in your head, right? You need something so much simpler than that. The golden rule is that there is no golden rule. That's George Bernard Shaw again. The golden rule is that there is no golden rule. And what he meant is that there's no single universal law of virtuous behavior that's one size fits all. There's no super hack for life. People are too different in their wants and their needs and their capacities. No one else's swing thought is going to work perfectly for you. You have to find your own. You have to build your own. And that's what I invite you to do. Not right this instant, but give it some thought. Make up your own golden rule, one that's yours alone, phrased exactly in a way that will plug into your own DNA and make you get off the couch and bend the universe. One I heard recently, I like, the guy said, treat everyone you meet like they're having a worse day than you. Actually, that guy might have been Aristotle, but I'm sure he'd give you his blessing to steal it if it works for you too. Here's another one, same idea, but a lower bar. At every turn, ask yourself, how might I become the least annoying stranger someone met today? The least annoying, okay. I've finally settled on one for myself that feels appropriately kind of zen. It just goes like this. We're all on our last cruise. Might as well make it as pleasant and as possible for everyone you meet. That I can live with. That could be my source code. But it's still too complicated for a swing thought. Anyone know this chap? It's the earlier days, yeah. It's Kurt Vonnegut, another Unitarian sort of. I think, we can almost claim this guy. He wrote a novel called God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater in the 60s. It still holds up. The protagonist, Elliot Rosewater, is a crazy old man, crazy like a fox, who at the end of his life is about to distribute his bags of money. I won't give away how he does it. And he makes a public statement about the state of human affairs, what we're all doing here on the third rock from the sun. And he gets up there, and in a voice that starts quietly and builds to a crescendo, he says, hello, babies. Welcome to Earth. It's hot in the summer, cold in the winter. It's round and wet and crowded. You've got about 100 years here at the outside. There's only one rule that I know of. God damn it, you got to be kind. Kindness. And maybe kindness is where we've been heading all along this morning. It's almost like we've climbed this ladder of virtue, the golden rule, and then up to the golden rule plus interest, which we call the platinum rule, and then to the platinum rule plus interest, which we call the titanium rule, and then the titanium rule plus interest we call the Guilas rule, up and up and up until we reach this shining door, and behind it really is the secret, after I just told you there isn't one, or at least not a universal one. But there it is, inviting you to help yourself to it. Kindness. The Dalai Lama said, this is my simple religion. No need for temples. No need for complicated philosophy. My philosophy is simple. Kindness. Kindness is a superpower because it sort of creates kindness in other people when they get hit with yours, even if they were tipping in the other direction. This summer, our eldest daughter, Maddie, was preparing to take her driver's test. And she was reviewing in her mind important habits to be conscious of, active eyes, the 10-second rule. And while we were out there practicing, I remembered a bit of advice that I had been taught, which suddenly struck me as about a lot more than just driving. The advice was, if you always let people in, no one can cut you off. Right? So I was like, mad, let people in. Think about that all the time. Like, hey, Toby, I'm letting you in. Wow. Now suddenly, you're protected from road rage, and they have no more need to be a jerk. Your generosity just spared them from their own worst impulses. Your kindness steamrolled their selfishness before it had a chance to reveal itself even to them. Kindness is the ultimate trump card. Okay, so my golf game's finally ready for prime time. Stepping up to the tee box. My caddy's Kurt Vonnegut here. Whispers some advice. Okay, here we go. God damn it, you gotta be kind. Wait a minute, that's not really my voice. Let's tighten it. Okay, you gotta be kind. You gotta be kind. Tighter yet. Be kind. Be kind. Be kind. When we pass the collection plate around, some people think it's helping the church run, keep the lights on and the staff paid, but that's not actually what the collection plate's for. 100% goes to a charity that the committee deems worthy this month. So this month, our outreach recipient is a new charity to us this year, though it's been going on for 13 years. It's called Backpack Buddies. And briefly, there are kids going hungry in the community, more than you think. 1 in 4 kids in BC don't have enough to eat. So this charity was founded by a mother and daughter team on the concept of the weekend hunger gap. Kids who can't afford to bring lunch increasingly get fed at school for free at school, and that's awesome, but that leaves the weekends where a bridge needs to be built. So this charity delivers food bags to get kids through the weekend till the lunch program kicks in. It's a great program. You can support it with the QR code. Please give as generously as you're able. The ushers, please come forward. Thank you. Thank you for your ongoing generosity to this community and for all the things you do that we don't even know about. Thanks, Brian, Karen. Alrighty, just a few announcements today. Downstairs, please join us for a casserole lunch that Diane has going for us. And on your way down, if you haven't seen, there's a bowl out in the lobby with a bunch of little cards, little quiz cards, Golden Rule quiz cards, and you take one and there's a quotation on it from one of the world's major religions, and you're supposed to figure out which one, and there's an answer key there. So grab one on the way down if you haven't seen that before. Next Sunday, Rebecca's up to talk about heroes, not the Marvel Universe kind, but the kind who show up in our lives just when we need them, and they give us something to steer by. In a sense, as Rebecca says, we define our ideals by the heroes we choose. Looks like a not to be missed one. Now let's start our descent from cruising altitude with our final hymn, one of the personal favorites of mine that we do here. It's called We Are, hymn number 1051.
He's right. For each other's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each other's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God, of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great vision, the sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each other's born, the morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each other's born, the morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Wonderful. I have a 90-second close here. You can gauge whether you want to stay standing or sit. The other day, I stumbled on this line by Kevin Kelly, who's a journalist I admire for his character as much as for his writing. It was in the context of social media and how building a large online following can be a kind of fool's gold, distracting you from what's really important in life. He said, "My advice? Cultivate 12 people who love you, because they are worth more than 12 million people who like you." That is what a community like this builds over time, and why it's not the same as a gym membership or a book club. People don't come to really love one another until they've been through stuff together. They've been vulnerable with one another and struggled together. And they participated in raising each other's kids and tuned each other's pianos and done each other's taxes. They suffered together. They've had painful separations from lifelong friends together, and they've wondered together, wait, am I the problem here? What could I have done better, and how can I make things right? And they're thinking, oh my gosh, I am very fortunate to know I'm not tackling these kind of questions alone. Thank you to everyone who made this service possible today. Peter on sound, Steele on slides, Malcolm on video, my guest chalice lighter, Stuart Browning, ushers Karen and Brian, greeters, coffee makers, bottle washers, and you. Thank you for continuing to support this wild, wonderful experiment in distributed ministry of which you are an absolutely essential part. Let's put out our flame. We extinguish this flame. The world calls us to live with depth, meaning, and purpose.